Welcome back to the deep dive. So today we're really opening up the hood on a problem that feels like it should have been solved, 10 years ago.
Oh, it does.
But it's actually the current bottleneck in modern AI. We're talking about the gap between imagining a solution and, well, actually executing it.
It sounds subtle, but that gap is where all the robots fall over. Literally.
We're looking at world models, and specifically a paper that just dropped from a massive collaboration. We're talking UC Berkeley, NYU, and Metafair.
Yep.
The title is Parallel Stochastic Gradient-Based Planning for World Models.
And for those who follow the heavy hitters in the field, Jan LeCun is on the author list, so, pay attention.
Exactly. But before we get into the solution, which involves something called GRASP, we need to back up. I think most people have a vague idea of what a world model is. It's basically a simulator inside the AI's brain, right?
That's the best way to think about it. Imagine you're playing a video game. You know that if you press A, your character jumps. If you press B, they crouch.
You have an internal physics engine in your head.
Exactly. You have a model that predicts the outcome. That is a world model. It takes sensory input, usually vision, and predicts the future.
Okay, so if I'm a robot in a kitchen, my world model tells me something like, if I move my arm 3 inches to the left, I'll knock over the milk.
Right. And for the last few years, AI has gotten really, really good at that part, the simulation part. But here's the catch, and this is the meat of the paper. Having a simulator is kind of useless if you can't use it to plan a pass.
This is the planning part of the title.
Exactly. Knowing that moving left spills milk is great. But the real question is, what sequence of 50 specific muscle movements will get the coffee cup into the dishwasher without breaking anything?
And that's where the wheels come off.
That's where the wheels come off. We call it the long horizon problem. Planning 1 step ahead is easy. Planning 50 steps ahead in a complex visual environment.
That's incredibly difficult.
Incredibly difficult.
Why? I mean, chess computers plan huge moves ahead. Why can't a robot in a kitchen do it?
Because chess is discrete. It had grid squares and clear rules. The real world is continuous and, well, it's messy. And when you try to chain predictions together in a neural network, you get the butterfly effect.
No. Chaos theory.
Basically, if your model is 99% accurate on step 1, that 1% error feeds into step 2.
Okay.
By step 50, the error has compounded so much that your mental image of the world is completely hallucinated. You're planning a path through a world that doesn't exist.
So the map is wrong.
The map is wrong and the compass is broken. And the paper argues that the current ways we try to fix this, the status quo methods, are fundamentally flawed.
Okay, let's break those down. The paper mentions 2 main old-school ways. The first is shooting methods, like CEM, that's cross-entropy method.
Right. CEM is, let's call it the brute force approach. Imagine you are in a pitch-black room, and you know there is a target somewhere on the other side.
Okay, with you.
You got a bucket of tennis balls you can't see, so you just grab a handful of balls and throw them in random directions.
Right.
Then you briefly flip on the lights, see which balls landed closest to the target, turn the lights off, walk over to where those balls landed, and throw another handful from there.
That sounds exhausting.
Yeah.
And incredibly inefficient.
It is. It is a zero-order method. It doesn't use any of the math inside the model. It treats the world as a black box. It's robust. It won't crash your computer, but it's dumb.
So it's just guessing.
If you need to plan a 60-step sequence, you are basically hoping that one of your random throws magically navigates a maze. It just doesn't scale.
Okay, so that's the dumb way. Then there's the smart way. Gradient descent.
Vanilla gradient descent. This uses the fact that world models are neural networks, which means they are differentiable. We can use calculus.
I can calculate the slope.
Exactly. Instead of throwing balls in the dark, you ask the math, what is the precise angle and velocity I need to hit the target? And the math gives you a vector.
That sounds perfect. Why isn't that the solution?
2 reasons. First, the exploding gradient. To calculate that angle for step 50, you have to run a calculation backward through time all the way to step 1. It's like trying to whisper a secret through a line of 50 people. By the time it gets back to the start, the message is garbled or screaming loud. It's computationally expensive and unstable.
And the second reason?
The local minima trap. This is the one that really gets me. Gradient descent is greedy. It wants to get closer to the goal right now.
The paper has a great diagram of this. The wall.
Yes. Imagine you need to push a block to a target, but there is a wall in between. The math looks at the coordinates and says the target is straight ahead. Push the block straight ahead.
But there's a wall.
The math doesn't care. It pushes the block into the wall because physically, being pressed against the wall is closer to the target than moving sideways to go around it.
To go around, you have to briefly move away from the target.
And the greedy algorithm hates that.
It sees it as a mistake.
Exactly. It views moving away as an error, so it just jams the robot into the wall forever.
So we're stuck. Shooting methods are too blind to see the path, and gradient methods are too short-sighted to navigate obstacles. Enter GRASP, which stands for Gradient Relaxed Stochastic Planner. That is a mouthful.
It is, but every word in that acronym is doing some heavy lifting. They propose 3 big shifts that essentially break all the rules of how we usually think about planning.
Let's start with the first big shift, parallelization. The paper says they stop planning sequentially. How do you plan a journey without doing step 1, then step 2, then step 3?
You do them all at once.
Explain that.
Think about how a storyboard artist works for a movie. They don't draw frame 1, then frame 2, then frame 3 perfectly.
No, they pin up a bunch of blank cards on a board. They sketch the ending, the beginning, the middle.
Exactly. They have the key moments, but the gaps between them might not make sense yet. GRASP initializes 50 virtual states all at once. It throws 50 dots onto the timeline. At the beginning, these dots might be totally disconnected. Step 10 might show the robot in the kitchen, and step 11 shows the robot on the moon.
Teleportation.
Right. There is a dynamics violation. The laws of physics are broken, but the algorithm accepts that. It says, okay, this is a rough sketch. Now let's optimize everything simultaneously to make the physics fit.
So instead of a chain reaction, it's a parallel refinement.
Yes. And because it's parallel, you can calculate the error for step 1 to 2 and step 49 to 50 at the exact same time on a GPU.
That must be a massive speed boost.
It's huge. The paper shows they can run this in less than half the time of the shooting methods, but more importantly, it changes the landscape of the problem.
How so?
By allowing the physics to be broken initially, you prevent that exploding gradient problem.
Yep.
You aren't whispering through 50 people, you're just talking to 50 people individually at the same time.
I love the storyboard analogy. It feels like sketching. You draw a rough circle for the head, and it's messy, but you refine it into a face.
Yeah.
You don't try to draw a photorealistic eye before you've drawn the nose.
Precisely. It's a lifted approach. You lift the constraints, find a rough shape, and then clamp it down.
But wait, even with the storyboard, if I have that wall in the way, couldn't I still draw a storyboard that goes straight through the wall? If the algorithm is greedy, won't it just refine the sketch into a crash?
You absolutely can. Parallel planning alone doesn't solve the local minima trap. Which brings us to the S in GRASP. Stochastic.
Which means random noise.
Yes, but they do something very specific here. Usually in AI, if you want to explore, you add noise to the actions. You shake the joystick.
Right.
GRASP adds noise to the states.
What is the difference? Why does shaking the state matter more than shaking the joystick?
Okay, imagine our robot stuck against that wall again. If I shake the joystick, that's action noise, the robot just jitters left and right. It's still banging into the wall. It's still trapped. But if I add noise to the state, I am essentially saying to the planner, hey, hallucinate for a second that you aren't here. Imagine you are 2 feet to the left.
You're teleporting the virtual robot.
Exactly. In the optimization process, the virtual state jumps to the side of the wall. Suddenly, the optimizer looks at that new position and sees a clear path to the goal. It goes, oh, if I were here, I could solve this.
And then it updates the actions to make that teleportation a reality.
Bingo. It snaps the path to the new, better location. By shaking the map, rather than the driver, you find escape routes that strictly physical movement would never find.
The paper calls this the Langevin update.
Yeah, that's the math term. It basically means mixing a gradient step, trying to be perfect, with a Gaussian noise step, which is trying to be chaotic. It keeps the plan fluid so it doesn't freeze into a bad solution.
So we have the parallel storyboard, we have the stochastic shaking to get around walls, but there's a third pillar, and this one. This one feels like a paradox. The relaxed part, the stop gradient.
This is the most technical piece, but arguably the most brilliant. It deals with the fact that these world models are, well, they're liars.
Liars.
Or rather, they're easily tricked. We have to remember, a world model is a deep neural network trained on video. It learns to recognize patterns. It is brittle.
Brittle how?
It's susceptible to adversarial examples. You know those optical illusions where you change one pixel on a panda and the AI thinks it's a gibbon?
Yeah, standard deep learning weirdness.
Well, that happens in planning too. The optimizer is ruthless. It wants to minimize error. If it finds a magic pattern, a weird static fuzz, or a visual glitch that makes the world model think the goal has been reached, it will use it.
So the AI isn't actually planning a pass, it's hacking the simulator, it's finding a cheat code.
Exactly. It warps the virtual state into something that looks like garbage to us but looks like success to the neural network. Theorem 1 in the paper actually proves this. It says you can't have a model that is both perfectly accurate and immune to these hacks.
So how does stop gradient fix the hacking?
They cut the wire. When they are calculating the math for the update, they look at the action and the state. But they apply a stop gradient operator to the input state.
Meaning
Meaning they tell the optimizer, you are allowed to change the action to get a better score. You are not allowed to change the state purely to get a better score.
they freeze the state for the sake of the grading?
Only for the backward pass. They treat the current state as a fixed constant. This forces the optimizer to be honest. It says, the only way you can improve this plan is by actually moving the robot arm, not by hallucinating a magic picture.
Wow. Okay, that is fascinating. It's like telling a student, you can write a better answer, but you aren't allowed to rewrite the question to make it easier.
That's a perfect analogy. By blocking that gradient flow, they prevent the AI from diluting itself.
But I have to push back here. If you cut the gradient, aren't you blinding the planner? If step 1 can't feel the pull of step 2 through the math, how does it know where to go?
This is where the parallel structure saves the day again. Because they have those 50 virtual states laid out, they use something called dense goal shaping. Magnets. Every single one of those 50 dots has a loss function pulling it toward the goal. So even though the gradient chain is cut, every individual moment is being tugged in the right direction.
So the whole snake slides sideways toward the target, even if the segments aren't talking to each other perfectly via the gradient.
Exactly.
So we have the theory, parallel states, the storyboard, stochastic noise, the shaking, and stop gradient, the anti-cheat. Does it actually work? Or is this just a nice paper that fails in reality?
They put it through the ringer. They tested it on D4RL and the DeepMind Control Suite, specifically to really hard tasks, point maze and push T.
I want to hear about push T.
It's a classic robotics headache. You have a robot arm and a T-shaped block. You have to push it to a target, but T-shapes are awkward.
Right.
If you push the wrong side, it stins away. You have to plan very, very carefully.
And long term.
Right. On horizons of 50 steps or more, GRASP smoked the competition. It had significantly higher success rates than CM or vanilla gradient descent, up to 10% higher in some configs.
And the speed.
Less than half the compute time of the shooting methods.
That's the parallelization paying off.
And if you look at the visuals, figure 4 in the paper, it's really telling. The other methods try to push the T-block in a straight line and get tangled up. GRASP finds these beautiful, smooth, S-shaped curves.
Shaped.
Yeah. It realizes it has to swing wide, loop around, and push from the side to get the angle right. It looks intentional. It looks like it understands the geometry.
It is finding the non-greedy path.
And the ablation study, where they break the model to see what works, confirmed our suspicions. When they removed the stop gradient trick, when they let the math run wild without the anti-cheat performance, actually got worse.
That is the smoking gun. More math was actually bad math.
It proves that we can't blindly trust gradients in deep learning. We need structural constraints.
So let's zoom out. We aren't all coding robots in our basements. What is the big takeaway here? Why does GRASP matter?
It matters because this is the bridge to the real world. We have AIs that can write poetry and generate images, but we don't have AIs that can reliably fold laundry or navigate a messy construction site.
Because those require long-term planning in a visual world.
Exactly. GRASP shows that we can solve this. But to solve it, we had to abandon the idea of perfect linear planning. We had to embrace a process that is parallel, noisy, and robust to its own hallucinations.
It seems like the paper saying, don't try to be perfect step by step. Sketch the whole thing, shake it around, and see what sticks.
Which is, ironically, a very human way of solving problems. We rarely plan linearly. We imagine the outcome, we worry about the obstacles, and we wiggle the plan until it fits.
It brings up a provocative thought. The paper explicitly uses dynamics violation, breaking the laws of physics, as a tool to find the solution. It makes you wonder, is creativity just a form of noisy planning? Maybe the ability to hallucinate a slightly wrong reality and then shake it until it becomes right is the only way to solve truly hard problems.
I think that's a safe bet. Being perfectly logical and greedy gets you stuck against the wall. Sometimes you have to break reality to find the door.
A little chaos goes a long way. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive.
See you next time.